Hello listeners and viewers. Welcome to Kaduna State Ministry of Education Radio and TV e-learning program designed for our SS3 and other students staying at home due to the coronavirus pandemic. The present administration, under the able leadership of His Excellency, Malam Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai, is positioned, as always, to ensure that under his leadership, our students are not left behind in all areas of human endeavors, especially education. Kaduna State is the center of learning. Therefore, we want to ensure that our students excel in their forthcoming examinations and beyond. Students and other learners at home are given this opportunity in order to continue learning, as education is a continuous process. Different subjects will be taught in this program to assist students to perform excellently in the forthcoming Senior School Certificate examination being conducted by NECO and WAEC as soon as schools reopen. Teachers making presentations will always provide their names and phone numbers during each presentation, and they can be contacted for questions, further explanations, and/or clarifications. The following numbers and contacts can also be reached for expression of any concern or observation: 090-865-00545 or 080-383-62072. Our website is www.education.kdsg.gov.ng. Our email education@kdsg.gov.ng or education.kdsg@gmail.com. Our YouTube channel, Ministry of Education, Kaduna State. Our Twitter handle @Kaduna_MOE. Or our Facebook page, Ministry of Education, Kaduna State. Stay safe, stay at home, and learn well. Thank you, happy listening, and happy viewing.
Hello learners, welcome to another segment of e-learning. I am Mrs. Chinyo, and I will be taking you the subject, government. Today's topic is pressure groups. The lesson is divided into two. We shall be looking at the first part of the topic. In subsequent lesson, I will take the concluding part. Today's lesson is divided into three. First, we shall look at the meaning of pressure groups. Second, we'll give examples or look at types of pressure groups. Last but not the least, we'll look at features of pressure groups. What then is pressure groups? Now, before we look at the definition itself, I just want to draw your attention to the fact that pressure groups are known differently. That is, we have other names we use in referring to pressure groups. In some books, pressure groups are called protest groups. In some, they are known as lobbyists. Whatever the name, it doesn't matter. They all perform the same functions and have the same features as our lesson today will show. Now, let us go into the meaning of pressure groups. By definition, I said pressure groups can be defined as organized members of the same profession who try to protect their interests by mounting or putting or exerting pressure on their employers. These employers could be public or private. when their interests are threatened or when they want a policy that will favor them. I also want to add that pressure groups, though not in government, have the capability to influence government decision to its advantage or to align with their interests. The nature of pressure group is that whenever their interest is threatened or when they want a policy to favor them, they have the capability to mount pressure on their employers so that their employers will bend and meet these interests or needs of theirs. They don't hold government positions. They are not in governance, no. However, they have the ability to do what? To make government hear and answer them. From this definition, you will realize that I am talking mostly on employers of level, most especially governments. That is not to say that it is only workers that can mount pressure on governments or other employers of labor. We have individuals, we have group of people that have the ability to mount pressure on governments. Let me give you a common example. We have a very popular name in Nigeria. He is a lawyer, popularly known as Femi Falana. This man is a strong pressure group that bears pressure on governments over issues. There are many other examples. I only used him as an example of somebody that can act as a pressure group. I want you to note, learners, that pressure groups are not interested in direct governance, but they can strongly support either a candidate or a political party who shares in their cause or who believes in what they are agitating for. Pressure groups, they are not saying we want to be governors. No. They are not saying we want to be president. No. They are not saying we want to be senators or local government chairmen, but they can support financially, morally, with ideas. They can support politicians. They believe will stand by them and grant them their desire when such come to power. Next, I want us to look at types of pressure groups. That is to say, we have different types of pressure groups, and I want you to pay attention. The nomenclature of a pressure or these pressure groups depends largely on the reference material at your disposal. The reason being, different writers classify pressure groups differently. for the purpose of our lesson today, we have thus classified our pressure groups. Number one, I tag or I call associational pressure groups. I call associational pressure groups. By way of description, these are the groups that seek for favorable government policies for members of their association. They seek favorable government policies for members of their association. Examples of associational pressure groups include the following. 1. Nigerian Union of Teachers. You can see this is an association made up and for teachers. We have Nigerian Labour Congress. All providers of labor, the workforce, this association is their umbrella. We have Nigerian Bar Association. It is an association for members of the bars, lawyers, judges, those who are learned in law. Then we have another example, Nigerian Medical Association. You can see this association is for medical professionals. We have Nigerian Union of Journalists, an association for journalists. Then we have Market Women Association. As the name simply describes, this is an umbrella for market business women, either sellers, retailers, wholesalers, all these women that sell. Then we have another association, which is National Council of Women Society. National Council of Women Society. An umbrella for women groups. All these are examples of associational pressure groups that fight for their members. 2. Ethnic or cultural pressure groups. These are formed in order to protect the interests of ethnicity. These pressure groups are formed on the basis of ethnicity and culture, and they are meant to fight for their ethnicity. Examples include Arewa Consultative Forum, Afenifere, Ndi Igbo, Tiv People Association, Urobo Association, among others. These pressure groups are united by ethnicity and birth, so they come together to influence government policy to favor their people. Number 3, institutional pressure groups. Examples of these groups include the military as an institution, the police as an institution, government, ministries, among others. As an institution, their leaders, through lobbying, they only use lobbying. And what is lobbying? Lobbying is an act of trying to convince or sell your idea so that the person can agree and buy your idea. So through lobbying, leaders of these institutions can get favor from governments, either on salary increase or other favorable terms of services for their institution. Number 4 is anomic pressure group. Anomic pressure groups. Learners, please pay attention. I want you to note that this type of pressure groups refers to those groups that spring up spontaneously in order to protest against or call for some policies or actions. And as soon as their demands are met, they disband. Before I give you an example of this group, I want you to note that anomic group is different from all the other groups because they don't belong to the same profession. You can see lawyers, teachers, engineers, health workers, journalists joining an anomic group when the need arises. They are united by an interest. That is what brings them together. And once their demands are met, they disband and everybody goes his or her own way. Let me give you an example of a classic anomic pressure group. Of recent, in the United States of America, in the state of Minneapolis, one man, George Floyd, was quote-unquote killed by the police. And immediately, groups just rose up spontaneously at the same time and began protesting for justice. This protest brought about reforms in the police force. That is a classic example of anomic group. There was a time during the reign of President Ebele Goodluck Jonathan in Nigeria where he attempted to increase the price of petroleum, and immediately there were protests and riots against it. That is a classic example of anomic pressure groups. But as soon as their demands are met, they disband. Example of this group includes rioters, demonstrators, strikers, mobs, among others. Number 5, we have economic pressure groups. These are basically manufacturers or producers who come together and mount pressure on governments to formulate policies that will favor them. Example of these groups, we have Rice Farmers Association, Cocoa Farmers Association, Cotton Farmers Association, among others. There was a time in the history of Nigeria when Rice Farmers Association mounted pressure on Nigerian government to ban the importation of foreign rice into the country so that an ideal environment will be created for the production and consumption of local rice. And they succeeded. Today there is a ban on the importation of foreign rice, and we depend on local production. Similarly, the cotton and other cocoa farmers association, they do the same. Number 6, educational pressure groups. Now, these are groups that are basically formed in our various institutions of higher learning. The groups are classified under academic and non-academic teaching staff. We also have students association like the Nigerian National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS. These groups mount pressure on governments to get better condition of service for its members and or seek for infrastructural development in their various institutions. This will better their lives, workers in the institution, and it also better the society, because when there's infrastructural development, it's not the workers alone that will benefit, it isn't the students alone that will benefit, but the general public will benefit, because more of our children will be admitted when they have enough infrastructure. These are examples of pressure groups that we have in our institutions. Academic Staff Union of University, which we popularly know as ASU, Non-Academic Staff Union of University, NASU. Then we have NANS, National Association of Nigerian Students. I'm sure often at times you hear that ASU goes on strike for one reason or the other, that they are mounting pressure on governments for better policies. Next, religious pressure groups. These are groups that are religious in nature, and through lobbying, they can influence government policies to favor their religion. Examples, I'm sure you have heard of Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN. You've also heard about Supreme Council of Islamic Affairs in Nigeria that mount pressure when an issue that affects their religion arises. Next, we are going to look at features of pressure groups. Features of pressure groups. That is the characteristics. How do you identify pressure groups? 1, each have organized membership who stand to benefit from their demands, except anomic pressure groups. Number 2, they have leaders that articulate, bring together, and present it properly, articulate the various demands, and present to governments, except anomic pressure group. Number 3, they depend on the financial contribution of its members to run its activities. Money makes the world go round. Last but not the least, groups are very careful in the approach they use while lobbying for favor, taking into consideration the regime in power. If it is a civilian regime, they know how to go about protests. If it is a military regime, they know how to go about their protests. This is how far we'll go with the lesson today. But before I step down, I want to leave you with these assignments to keep you busy. 1, define pressure groups. 2, enumerate 4 types of pressure groups. Number 3, highlight 5 features of pressure groups. I take it again. Question 1, define pressure groups. Number 2, enumerate 4 types of pressure groups. Last but not the least, highlight 5 features of pressure groups. Now the references or reference materials still remain the same. New Approach Government for SS3, Essential Government for SS3, Round-up Government for Senior Secondary Schools, and Exam Focus. When you are done with your assignments, submit it to 081 047 425 53. I take the number again. 081 047 42553. I remain Chinyo Juliana. Stay home, stay safe, and keep learning. See you in the next class. Thank you.